Now, China does seem to be moving forward aggressively with economic and financial market reforms, although if you look at what has happened over the last year and a half, one could make the case that some of these reforms have been very half-hearted and very haphazard, which in turn has created a lot of turmoil in currency markets and equity markets. And I think there isn't a complete commitment to financial market reforms the way we might think of having a market work completely freely. And there isn't a good institutional framework to support these market-oriented reforms. But again, even though China's moving forward with these reforms in a very haphazard way, I think the RMB could end up rivaling some of the reserve currencies, such as the Japanese yen, the pound sterling, and perhaps even take a bite out of the euro. But the dollar has a lot going for it. Its size of financial markets, plus a lot of institutions that work well. And one thing that China has made very clear, the president on downward have made it very clear that while they're committed to economic and financial market reforms, broader political, legal, and institutional reforms are off the table. But again, reading the press, you might not quite get a hint of this because there is a lot of discussion about the rule of law. But it's important to recognize that what China means by having the rule of law operate is not what some of us in this room might think of as the rule of law. What they mean is having property rights, contractual rights being enforced in an efficient manner, and you need that for a market-oriented system to work well. What is unlikely to happen is that the rule of law will not mean that the courts or the court system takes precedence over the Communist Party of China. And that's what we might think of as the rule of law. So I think on these dimensions, it's very unlikely we'll see progress from China. And that's why I think that China could become, if it plays its cards right, and I keep adding the qualifier, it's important, that it could become a significant reserve currency. But is it going to become a safe haven currency? Ain't going to happen.
But if you could name just a few of the things that they have to do to sort of like get in towards that direction. You've talked about the rule of law, for example. What does a foreign investor or a foreign central bank that wants to hold RMB as reserve, what do they need to see in terms of judicial or legal stability to give them that comfort level?
The key question that a foreign investor is interested in are the rules of the game going to be changed for political reasons. There aren't that many countries in the world. We are in one where we are in the craziness of the political season, but there are institutionalized checks and balances in the system. And most importantly, you or I or a foreign investor could take the US government to court if we feel that a law is not being followed properly by the US government. And very often the US government does lose. So if you think about a foreign investor wanting to be treated fairly, this becomes important. Why is it that we had a flood of money coming into US Treasury securities after the financial crisis when the financial crisis started here? It's because foreign investors knew that they could move easily in and out of these instruments. And more importantly, the US government couldn't turn around and say, you, the foreign investors, hold a lot more of our securities than our own investors, so we're going to put the torch to you, because legally they can't discriminate among different classes of investors, and that creates trust. So there are these elements, having an independent central bank, having a better legal system, that I think are crucial for that word, trust, to be there, and I don't think China is going to get there.